God says this is an urgent message only for you, and even as this moment reaches you, heaven is watching the way your soul reacts. God says that Archangel Michael and Jesus are standing beside you right now with a kind of trembling patience, a kind of divine urgency that you barely understand yet, and God says that if you skip this moment, you will miss the very whisper you've been praying for. God says that you have only 10 seconds in spirit, not in fear but in purpose, 10 seconds where the realms open in a way that rarely happens, and God says He is begging you not to look away. God says, chosen one, no matter what happens around you, no matter who tries to distract you, stay here. God says that right now even His own voice feels like it is breaking because He has watched you suffer in silence for too long. He has watched you cry quietly when you thought no one saw, and He has watched you pretend to be strong when your heart was collapsing. God says He is crying too, not because you are weak, but because you have been strong for far too long without help. God says He is with you, and nothing will go wrong with you, and you are safe, truly safe, even in the places where your mind doubts. God says you only need to trust Him, call to Him, breathe into Him, and let this message unfold. God says there are moments where heaven leans close to the earth, moments where the veil thins and the world you can't see touches the world you can. And this is one of those rare moments. God says Archangel Michael is not speaking lightly. Michael is not warning you out of fear but out of love. Michael is protective in ways you cannot imagine, watching over your nights, your doors, your steps, even your heartbeat when you struggled through the things no one else knew. God says Jesus has seen your exhaustion, your tears, the silent battles you carried like heavy stones. God says you were not forgotten, you were not abandoned, you were not overlooked. Your prayers echoed through the heavens even when you thought they evaporated. God says that the reason this message was placed in front of you at this exact second is because you were chosen for a breakthrough that cannot be delayed any longer. God says that for months, maybe even years, you have been living in a spiritual waiting room, knowing something big was coming but not knowing when. God says that patience has weighed on you like a burden, but He knows every second you waited. God says He has seen you feel exhausted by hope itself, tired of believing, tired of trusting, tired of standing tall after every disappointment. God says He understands the heaviness of your spirit, but this message is your sign that the waiting is almost over. God says the spiritual atmosphere around you is shifting so quickly that even you may feel sudden urges, sudden emotions, sudden realizations, sudden desires to clean your life, sudden desires to walk away from people who drain you. Sudden clarity about what is real and what is fake. God says this is the final preparation for the blessing that is approaching you. God says that He is crying not because you are in danger, but because He knows how close you are to giving up without realizing how close you are to your miracle. God says that sometimes the soul cries before the breakthrough arrives, because you have carried so much for so long. God says heaven has not turned its back on you, heaven has been preparing the path ahead of you. God says the things that you lost were not punishments, they were redirections. God says the tears you cried were not ignored, they were seeds. God says the loneliness you felt was not abandonment. It was refinement. God says the delays you experienced were not rejections, they were protection. God says listen closely to what He is saying now. The doors that did not open before were not meant to open yet, because the people behind those doors were not aligned with your destiny. God says He protects you from what you cannot see, even when you feel frustrated by what you think is missing. God says that what He is preparing for you is far greater than what you thought you lost. God says that He is writing a chapter for you that will make every broken piece worth it, and Archangel Michael is standing at the gate of this next chapter making sure no darkness follows you into it. God says that you have been praying for clarity, asking for signs, whispering questions into the night, wondering why certain things happened the way they did. God says this message is the answer. The things that left your life had to leave. God says the betrayals you experienced were actually revelations. God says the people who walked away were not meant to stay for the part of your story that is about to unfold. God says He is sending new connections, new opportunities, new relationships, new pathways, and new purpose. God says He is aligning things in your favor even when you cannot feel it yet. God says He never abandoned you. In fact, God says He was closer to you during your darkest days than you ever realized. God says He counted every tear, saw every silent breakdown, heard every prayer you prayed under your breath when no one was around. God says some prayers were answered in ways you didn't expect, some were delayed for your protection, and some are being fulfilled now. God says that your heart is too precious to Him to allow you to remain connected to people or situations that would have damaged you further. God says He knows how deeply you love, and that is why He has guarded your heart, even when it felt like you were breaking. God says that Archangel Michael has been fighting battles for you that you never saw. Michael shielded you from emotional harm, spiritual harm, energetic harm, and even from decisions you would have regretted. God says that Jesus has been comforting your spirit, whispering calmness into your heart during the nights you couldn't sleep, guiding your intuition, strengthening your inner voice. God says He has been shaping you into someone who is ready for the blessings that require emotional maturity, spiritual strength, and unwavering faith. God says He is not letting you fall. God says He is lifting you into a season of unexpected favor, unexpected breakthroughs, unexpected blessings, and unexpected peace. God says your heart is being restored right now in ways you cannot see yet. God says healing is happening in you, quietly, gently, powerfully. God says that everything you went through was not wasted, it was preparation. God says you are entering a time where past hurts cannot follow you. God says that He is cutting spiritual cords to people who drained your energy. God says He is removing invisible burdens from your life. God says He is breaking patterns that kept you stuck. God says He is removing confusion from your mind and planting clarity in its place. God says He is restoring confidence to your spirit and giving you courage for the blessings about to arrive. God says the reason He is so urgent right now is because you have been spiritually exhausted, overwhelmed, and almost disconnected. God says He refuses to lose you to discouragement. God says Jesus refuses to let you walk away from your destiny. God says Archangel Michael refuses to let your spirit collapse under the weight of things that were never meant for you. God says they are all with you. God says you will not lose them. God says they will not leave you. God says they are not going anywhere. God says the idea that they would ever abandon you is impossible because heaven does not walk away from the chosen ones. God says His love is deeper than your fear. God says His presence is stronger than your anxiety. God says His protection is greater than anything that threatens you. God says He is surrounding you with light right now, covering your home, your heart, your spirit. God says the things you fear will dissolve. God says the path ahead will open. God says everything will align. God says, chosen one, do not give up. Do not lose trust. Do not lose hope. God says He is with you, rest assured, and nothing will go wrong with you. God says He has already gone before you to prepare the victory you prayed for. God says to breathe, to trust, and to open your heart. God says this message is your confirmation that you are safe, protected, loved, and guided toward your miracle. God says the 10 seconds were never about fear, they were about alignment. You are aligned now. Heaven is with you. And your breakthrough has already begun. God says this message is being delivered to you in a moment when your soul is trembling between what you know and what you fear. Between what you hope for and what you avoid. Between what is pulling you forward and what is trying to hold you back. God says this is an urgent message only for you, a divine whisper that comes when the world becomes too loud, when the weight becomes too heavy, when the thoughts become too scattered, when the fear tries to overpower your faith. God says He is speaking to you right now because you have asked silently, you have cried quietly, you have broken inwardly, you have carried things that were not meant for your shoulders, and you have pretended to be strong even when no one knew you were crumbling on the inside. God says this message is not random. This message is not an accident. This message is not a coincidence. This message is a divine appointment with your destiny. God says He has been watching your steps, observing your heart, feeling your silent prayers, and hearing those moments when you whispered, God, if you can hear me, please show me something. God says you asked for a sign that is impossible to misunderstand, a sign that would shake you awake, a sign that would comfort your heart and strengthen your spirit. God says this is that sign. God says He is speaking directly to you, not to the world, not to the crowd, not to others, to you. You are not reading this by chance. You were guided here. Heaven arranged this moment. God says Archangel Michael and Jesus are standing beside you right now. Both calling your name with urgency, because your soul is being pulled in two directions. One side pulls you toward fear, doubt, confusion, and the exhausting weight of what you have been carrying alone. The other side pulls you toward faith, clarity, protection, and divine realignment. God says the message arriving at this moment is meant to stop you from sinking back into doubt and to lift you into the divine plan that has been written for you long before you ever knew how to pray. God says this message contains a warning, but also a promise. A warning because heaven sees the things you cannot see, the conversations you were not in, the intentions hidden behind people's smiles. The energies around you that try to drain your spirit, the emotional traps that try to pull you back, and the spiritual battles that intensify whenever you are close to a breakthrough. God says the warning is simple. Do not skip this message, do not ignore this moment. Do not underestimate what heaven is trying to reveal to you. God says you have only a few seconds spiritually, because something is shifting rapidly in the unseen, something you have prayed for is about to emerge, and something that was blocking you is about to fall away. God says Archangel Michael is standing with his sword drawn, protecting you from the invisible attacks that were meant to break you. Jesus is standing beside him, reaching his hand toward you, saying that he will not let you fall. But they both say, if you skip this message, you will lose the clarity they are trying to give you right now. They are not threatening you, they are pleading with you. They know how fragile your heart has become. They know how much you have endured. They know how many times your spirit was on the verge of giving up. They know how many nights you cried without anyone noticing. They know how many times you tried to smile while carrying hidden pain. They know how deeply you long for peace, love, justice, restoration, and breakthrough. God says you are not weak for feeling tired. You are not faithless for feeling scared. You are not unworthy for feeling confused. You are human, and heaven understands your exhaustion. God says you have been carrying emotional burdens, spiritual burdens, mental burdens, financial burdens, and even ancestral burdens that were never meant to rest upon your shoulders. You became the strong one, the quiet one, the responsible one, the one who pretends everything is fine even when it is not. God says you are not the only one who has noticed your pain. Heaven has been watching closely. And now heaven is intervening. God says the reason this message is urgent is because something is breaking in the spiritual realm. Something that was sent to weaken you is losing its power. Something that was draining your energy is being removed. Something that was blocking your blessings is collapsing. Something that has been chasing you emotionally is being stopped. God says the shift is happening now, not later, not eventually, not someday. Now. And your awareness of this message is crucial because heaven needs your heart to be aligned, your faith opened, your spirit receptive, and your energy focused. God says you must understand why Michael and Jesus said you have only 10 seconds. They do not mean earthly time. They mean spiritual urgency. They mean this moment is a divine doorway, and if you walk through it with faith, something in your life will transform. God says divine timing is not based on clocks, it is based on readiness. Your soul is ready. Your spirit is ready. Your path is ready. Your breakthrough is ready. But your fear tries to hold you back. Heaven is fighting to pull you forward. God says He is crying for you, not out of sadness, but out of love. Out of compassion. Out of the divine ache He feels when His children hurt silently. God says you have been pretending that you don't need help, pretending that you don't need support, pretending that you don't feel overwhelmed, pretending that you don't feel fearful, pretending that you don't feel alone. God says He knows. He sees. He feels. He understands. And today, He is stepping in. God says He will not allow anything to harm you. God says no tragedy will touch you. God says no danger will enter your life. God says He is surrounding you with divine protection. God says the reason you are reading this is because heaven is rearranging things around you. God says there were people in your life who were wearing friendly faces but carrying harmful intentions. God says there were energies around you that were sent to drain your spirit and disrupt your peace. God says you have been connected to people who do not deserve access to your heart, your mind, or your destiny. God says He is removing these people. God says He is exposing these intentions. God says He is closing doors that you should have walked away from long ago. God says He is bringing new people into your life. People who carry truth, love, respect, loyalty, and genuine intentions. God says He is preparing a blessing that will reverse everything that hurt you. A blessing that will restore everything that was taken from you. A blessing that will surprise you, elevate you, and transform you. God says the blessing coming to you is greater than the pain you experienced. God says the miracle coming to you is larger than the loss you endured. God says the breakthrough coming to you is stronger than the obstacles that tried to stop you. God says there are two things He needs from you right now: trust and prayer. God says trust is not pretending everything is perfect. Trust is believing He is working even when you can't see the results yet. Trust is choosing faith even when fear tries to whisper lies to you. Trust is opening your heart even when life has disappointed you. Trust is saying, God, I believe you are protecting me, even when you are unsure of what is happening around you. God says prayer is not about using the perfect words. Prayer is opening your soul. Prayer is releasing your fear. Prayer is surrendering your pain. Prayer is saying, God, take over. I can't do this alone anymore. Prayer connects your weakness to heaven's strength. God says your prayer today does not need to be long. It simply needs to be honest. God says He hears you even when you cannot speak. God says He understands the language of tears, the language of silence, the language of struggle, the language of hope, the language of exhaustion, and the language of faith. God says this is the moment when He steps closer to you than ever before. This is the moment your angels draw near. This is the moment your spirit shifts. This is the moment your energy rises. This is the moment your blessings accelerate. God says you were never alone. God says you were never abandoned. God says you were never forgotten. God says you were never unseen. God says every moment you cried, heaven recorded it. Every moment you struggled, heaven supported you. Every moment you prayed, heaven responded even if you didn't see it yet. God says the next season of your life will be filled with clarity, peace, divine connections, unexpected breakthroughs, financial stability, emotional healing, spiritual awakening, and protection so strong that nothing can shake it. God says you are safe. God says He is with you. God says nothing will go wrong for you. God says trust Him, pray to Him, walk with Him, and hold His hand through this moment. God says this message is your confirmation, your divine reassurance, your spiritual protection, and your heavenly instruction. God says, you are chosen. You are protected. You are guided. You are loved. And heaven will not let you fall. God says this to you now, in this very moment. Breathing through the space around you, reaching into your heart with a trembling voice filled with love and urgency. Chosen one, please don't turn away from this. Don't skip. Don't doubt. Don't fear. God says, I am speaking to you because your soul has reached a point where every silent prayer you whispered, every tear you held back, every moment you felt abandoned or unseen has risen like incense before me. I hear you. I see you. I am with you. And today, I am sending this message because something inside you needs to awaken, something sacred that has been waiting a long time for this precise moment. God says, you feel a pressure inside your heart as if something big is coming. Something you can't explain, something you can't describe to anyone without sounding strange. But I know exactly what it is. It is the shift you have been waiting for. It is the breakthrough that has been circling your life like a quiet wind, waiting for the door of your faith to open. And I tell you now, chosen one, don't ignore this moment. Even Jesus and Archangel Michael are leaning close to you, calling your name, whispering, urging you, because something in heaven has aligned for you. God says, I saw your struggle. I saw the nights you stayed awake, trying to distract yourself so you wouldn't feel the weight on your chest. I saw the days you kept smiling while your soul begged for relief. I saw how hard you tried to be strong for everyone around you, even when no one noticed your breaking point. Every time you said, God, please help me, I heard you. Every time you said, I can't do this anymore, I stood beside you. Every time you felt like giving up, I lifted you without you even realizing it. And God continues, you think you are alone, but you are not. You think no one understands what you feel, but heaven understands. You think your pain is unnoticed, but every drop of it has been collected in my hands. That is why I'm sending Michael and Jesus to speak to you now, because this moment isn't accidental. There is something divine happening around you, and you may not see it with your eyes yet. But your spirit feels it. The stirring, the heat, the urgency, the sense that something is pulling you forward. Archangel Michael speaks through the light that surrounds you and says, "Chosen one, please listen." I speak with urgency not because something bad is coming, but because something important is beginning. Something meant for you, something designed for you, something heaven has been preparing for far longer than you know. And if you ignore this moment, you will not lose God or Jesus in reality, but you will lose the timing, the alignment, the opening that heaven carved for you. This is why I speak with emotion. This is why I reach toward you with trembling wings. Because heaven's door has opened. And you must walk through it. Jesus speaks softly, with the tenderness that calms storms and heals wounds without touching them. He says, "My beloved, don't be afraid. Don't think you are in danger. Don't believe that anything harmful is happening. What you are feeling is the intensity of a blessing approaching, the weight of destiny forming, the echo of promises long delayed. I am not warning you out of fear. I am calling you out of love. You have cried for a long time. You have endured silently. You have waited patiently for justice, for peace, for joy, for the day when things finally shift. That day is being written into your story now. God says, "This message comes with urgency because the door I am opening for you now will not remain closed anymore. It is time for you to rise, chosen one. It is time for you to step into what was always yours but delayed by circumstances, people, and chains that were never meant to hold you. But listen carefully, do not run, do not fear, do not close your heart. Stay open. Stay connected to me. Stay in prayer. Stay in trust. Because you are being guided, and this moment is your confirmation." God's voice becomes softer, but more powerful. "You have felt something watching over you. That was me. You have felt something protecting you. That was Michael. You have felt something pulling you toward hope again. That was Jesus. You are not imagining anything. You are not being dramatic. You are awakening. And this awakening is why this message comes with such spiritual intensity. God says, there were moments recently when you felt sudden chills, sudden heaviness, sudden silence around you. You thought it was fear, but it was my presence settling into your atmosphere, preparing you for change. There were moments you felt like crying for no reason. That was your soul releasing the old pain so the new blessing could enter. There were moments you saw dreams, signs, or random words that seemed to follow you. Those were confirmations that heaven has been trying to get your attention. Archangel Michael speaks again, with emotion, "Please hear me. You have only a little time to align your heart. This is not a countdown to disaster. This is a countdown to destiny. If you turn away, if you ignore this moment, you won't be punished. You will simply miss the extraordinary peace that is being offered to you right now. Heaven is asking for just a moment of your trust, a moment of your openness, a moment of your attention. That is all. Not fear. Not panic. Not despair. Only trust. Jesus places his hand over your spirit and says, "You think your life is falling apart, but it is falling into place. You think people abandoned you, but I removed those who blocked your blessing. You think you failed, but I was redirecting you. You think you lost everything, but I am about to show you why every loss was preparation. You have cried enough. You have survived enough. You have suffered enough. Now something better is entering your life." God's voice returns, warm and steady. You must hear this clearly. Nothing will go wrong with you. Nothing is coming to harm you. Nothing is waiting in the shadows. You are safe. You are protected. You are held in my hands. The world around you may shake, but you will not be shaken. The people around you may not understand your journey, but I understand every detail. Trust me. I have gone before you. I stand beside you. I walk behind you. I cover you from every direction. God says, you have been chosen not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. You have been chosen not because you never fall, but because you always rise. You have been chosen because your heart carries compassion, depth, intuition, strength, and a quiet holiness that heaven treasures. Many tried to break that spirit. Many took advantage of your kindness. Many thought you would never heal. But you are rising now, chosen one, and heaven is standing in awe of your spirit. The message continues flowing through you like a river of light. You are stepping into a season where things that once hurt you will no longer have power over you. You are stepping into a season where every closed door will finally make sense. You are stepping into a season where your prayers will not just be heard, they will be answered. You are stepping into a season where your heart will feel lighter, where your mind will feel clearer, where your path will feel guided, where your blessings will feel inevitable. God says, your life is not ending. Your life is beginning. Every delay, every detour, every disappointment has been preparing you. You were not being punished, you were being positioned. You were not being forgotten, you were being shaped. You were not being rejected, you were being redirected to something greater. Jesus says, hold on a little longer. Trust a little deeper. Pray with your heart, not your fear. Stay open to me. Stay close to me. Stay grounded in faith, even when your emotions shake. You are loved more than you understand. You are protected more than you realize. You are guided more than you can see. Nothing you fear is stronger than the love that surrounds you. Archangel Michael adds, every time you felt alone, I was there. Every time you felt weak, I lifted you. Every time someone tried to hurt your spirit, I shielded you. And I am not leaving you. I am not stepping away. I am fighting for you in realms you cannot see. God says, chosen one, your story is not over. Your miracle is not far. Your blessing is not lost. Your breakthrough is not delayed. This message is your sign. This message is your alignment. This message is your divine confirmation. God ends with this, do not be afraid. Do not skip. Do not doubt. I am with you. You are safe. You are loved. Just trust me. Just pray to me. Just stay close to me. Everything is being taken care of for you. God says this moment is not an accident, and the timing you arrived here is not random. You felt a pull, a strong invisible force that led you to open this, because something in your soul already knew that heaven was trying to reach you. God says there are moments in a person's life when the entire direction shifts, not because of fear, not because of pressure, but because heaven steps closer and whispers a truth that cannot be ignored. This is one of those moments. God says He has been watching your heart, your tears, your quiet nights, the times you kept walking even when you felt like collapsing, and now He is sending a message that is wrapped in urgency only because of how deeply you are loved. God says He is not warning you to frighten you, He is calling you to awaken the power that has been silent inside you for far too long. God says there is something happening in the spiritual realm right now, something you cannot see but you can feel. You have been sensing a shift, a stirring, a sudden pressure in your spirit, and you thought it was anxiety or stress, but heaven says it is your awakening. God says He is opening a divine door, and the moment you read these words, that door begins to unlock. God says you were not supposed to miss this. God says He is speaking through the urgency in your heart because something extremely important is unfolding for you. Archangel Michael stands beside you with a message that carries both protection and love, and Jesus stands with a gentle but firm voice saying that this is your time to rise and stop doubting who you are. God says He saw the things you survived that no one else knows about. He saw the pain you never spoke of. He heard the prayers you prayed in silence. He felt the moments when you asked, God, are you still with me? And He says to you right now that not only is He with you, but He has never been closer than He is in this moment. God says the urgency you feel is not danger, it is destiny rushing toward you. It is the breakthrough you have been waiting for pressing against the walls of your reality. It is the miracle that has been traveling toward you for months, now standing only inches away. God says you are not late, you are right on time, and this message reaches you with divine precision. God says Jesus and Archangel Michael have been interceding for you, speaking your name with love, protection, and fierce loyalty. Michael says your spirit has been under pressure because you are stepping into a season that the enemy tried to block. God says there were forces trying to distract you, people trying to mislead you, energy trying to weaken you, and situations designed to break your confidence. But God says none of that succeeded because your soul is stronger than anything that attempted to shake you. God says you are chosen, not by accident, but by divine decision. You carry a light that heaven refuses to let the world take from you. God says He knows you sometimes feel alone, misunderstood, or hidden, but He calls you seen, protected, and divinely guided. God says every tear you shed was counted, every disappointment recorded, every heartbreak held in His hands. God says you are stepping into a moment where what was hidden from you will be revealed to you. The heavens are opening the truth about your path, your purpose, your destiny, and your spiritual identity. God says the world tried to shrink you, but He is expanding you. God says people tried to confuse you, but He is bringing clarity. God says situations tried to overwhelm you, but He is lifting you higher than you have ever been before. God says the reason the message feels urgent is because your breakthrough is in motion right now. Something is shifting in your energy, in your atmosphere, in the unseen realm around you. God says a blessing is on its way, one that was delayed but never denied. God says the next part of your life will not look like the past, and the next chapter that heaven is writing for you is filled with restoration, abundance, healing, clarity, and peace that surpasses everything you have experienced before. God says He is sending people who will value your heart, opportunities that match your purpose, and divine protection that surrounds your footsteps. God says Archangel Michael has been guarding you in moments when you didn't even feel spiritual. Even when life felt routine or heavy, Michael was clearing paths you never knew were blocked. God says Jesus has been whispering comfort to your spirit even when you felt too tired to pray. God says His love has been covering you even when you doubted yourself. God says heaven has not abandoned you, heaven has been preparing you. The urgency in this message is not fear, it is a divine countdown to your transformation. God says you are standing on the edge of something powerful, and He doesn't want you to miss what He is giving you. God says the emotions you feel right now are not random. You may feel a sudden heaviness, warmth, chills, or a pull in your spirit. God says that is confirmation. He is touching your energy, awakening your spiritual gifts, and realigning your path. God says the confusion, the delays, the betrayals, the disappointments, all of them were parts of a divine plan to strengthen you for what is coming. God says you did not lose anything that was meant for you. What left made room for what is blessed. What broke you prepared you for what is holy. What exhausted you built the strength you are about to use to step into your new season. God says this is your moment to trust Him with a deeper level of faith. Not the faith that comes from fear, but the faith that comes from knowing you are divinely protected. God says nothing will go wrong with you. God says you are safe. God says you are held. God says you are guided. God says you are loved beyond measure. God says the reason your spirit is trembling with urgency is because heaven is aligning your blessings right now. The miracle that once felt far away is now close. The breakthrough that once felt impossible is now unfolding. God says your name is being spoken in rooms you have never entered. Your energy is drawing things toward you that you thought you would never receive. God says He is removing obstacles from your path that were blocking your joy. He is exposing hidden intentions, clearing negative energy, and breaking spiritual resistance. God says you have endured too much to settle for less. You have survived too much to be small. You have been patient for too long to doubt what He is sending to you now. God says your future will surprise you. God says the next part of your life will feel like healing breath after years of holding everything inside. God says your soul is about to breathe again. God says Jesus is reaching for your heart with compassion. Michael is reaching for your spirit with courage. God is reaching for your destiny with divine authority. Together, they surround you with protection, peace, and strength. God says you are not losing them, you are being embraced by them. God says He wants you to trust Him, not out of fear but out of love. God says you are safe in His hands. God says He is guiding your steps with precision. God says the urgency is because something beautiful is arriving sooner than you think. God says breathe. You are not in danger. You are in transformation. Your life is shifting. Your spirit is awakening. Heaven is moving. And God says this message reached you because today is the day your story begins to change in ways you never imagined. God says He is with you, and nothing will go wrong with you when you trust Him. God says